All right, welcome in one and all to our fantasy football podcast. This is the fourth time we're speaking to you wonderful viewers. My name is Dan Mountain, and I'm here with two of my wonderful co-hosts, if you want to just introduce yourself.
I'm so scared right now. My name is George, and I've never been more uncomfortable in my life.
My name is Darian. I'm having a ball.
George is about to be having a ball in a minute. Oh my gosh. You ready to get your tiger on, George?
No.
But before
the slightest.
Before we pay out last week's bet, we got a quick announcement. We got a name for our podcast finally. How do you guys feel about that?
Look at us. We're like almost real adults.
We are officially the football fetishists. We're just three guys with a fetish for foot.
You're goddamn right we are.
So, I mean, it's kind of
not actual feet, Dan.
Not actual, no, football. Didn't you hear me? Like, football.
Okay, good.
You know,
Frank,
just foot and balls. It's that easy. So, to celebrate the new name that we have, right off the top of our cast, we're going to get right to paying out of some stakes. George, do you want to tell us what the stakes were from last week?
Well, I mean, I was really smart. I got cocky, and I told Daniel he was going to...
C-O-C-K-Y.
I told my man Daniel he was going to lose the bet for which starting quarterback was going to have the least amount of points. But turns out I'm an idiot, and I should never get cocky, because then it gets on my balls.
And
that's Tiger Balm.
B-A-L-L-S.
And we got a studio audience behind us in case you can't hear us. George, he brought upon an audience. That's how great that this is about to be.
My balls do tend to attract all
What
the
happened
ladies.
to Russ? Can you explain what happened Thursday night?
You know what? I bet against Tom Brady. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm ever doing.
I bet against Tom Brady. I'm not sitting here with about that Tiger Balm in my nutsack.
Thank
is
you,
not
thank you,
fun.
Tom Brady.
Thursday
Thank you,
Night Football
Tom Brady.
statistically has less points than any other game, man. I'm sorry. It just is. It was dangerous. But let's get this over with.
Without further ado, let's go.
Whip it out, George. Whip it out. We're all watching here. Dude, that's not enough. Oh my god. He's doing All right, so any heat yet, George? Any heat?
Nothing yet.
Dude, it says it right on the package. It's a pain.
It's all over there, believe me.
I didn't see him pull very much Tiger Balm out of that thing. Maybe that's enough for George.
Shut
if you know what I
He
mean.
had a good amount of goop on there.
I don't think that would cover our surface area, if you know what I'm talking about. George, you don't seem to be reacting at all.
What are you talking about?
The listeners want some reactions.
I'm chilling. This is easy. This isn't hard.
It's not bad?
Yeah, no.
Just a little minty fresh?
Yeah.
I'm
saying that just waiting for impending doom, but you know, right now I feel good.
I'd say you enjoyed that. The look on your face just had sheer pleasure on your face, bro.
I'm so scared right now. Oh, it's starting.
Oh, it's starting, is it?
It hasn't really started hurting yet, but it's going to.
Describe what you're feeling.
Tingling. Actually, it's like a nice tingle.
Minty fresh?
It's kind of like when...
It smells quite fantastic.
It does smell nice.
It definitely smells good.
I'm just upset we didn't get somebody to apply it for you. You know what I mean? We got a whole audience here, and you had to do it yourself.
I know. I've got my good friend Sahil, who I was really hoping would have been willing to do it, but maybe next time.
Next time for sure.
Sahil looks like
it's starting to come up.
Yeah,
it's getting cold.
What does it feel like?
It's getting real cold and tingly.
Are they
cold? I thought it was supposed to be warm.
I don't know.
Darren, you've said you've done this before, right? Like,
I've seen my friend do it before, and it was not good. But
oh boy.
It smells like actually really good in here now.
All right, well, while George...
Okay, let's start talking. At some point, you'll know when it starts happening.
While George is about to get his nuts on fire, let's get into the podcast. So we got a great cast for you guys today, or maybe just a semi-mediocre cast. Who knows? We'll find out after. We got some risers, fallers, and fakers on the docket. We got our defensive streams of the week.
It's
we
coming.
got our waiver wire witch hunt.
It's coming.
Oh, it's coming now, is it?
You can keep talking.
Okay, so the waiver wire witch hunt's really going on in your pants. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, there's a lot going on in my pants right now.
And we're going to go over a
sweat
sneaky
starting to
start
form on your brow.
The sweat drips down slowly from George's forehead.
So uncomfortable.
He's pucker. Is it? So, George, talk to us. How are you feeling?
It's so painful. It's just fucking stinging.
It sounds like you need more.
It's like it's just rising up right in there.
Dude, I want to try this. This seems fun. George, you grab
the water. I said he's allowed to use water now.
What, does he have to wash it off? Like, what is it?
I'll hold off for a bit.
His face is going bright red. Like beet red.
No, if you had to do this again, would you do the Tiger Balm, or would you rather be mauled by a real tiger?
Oh my god, I don't ever want to do this again.
George, you have a seat, man. Why don't you use it?
Let's get into the podcast.
Okay, all right.
Battle through.
Our first segment is risers, fallers, and fakers, and this is going to be better than just the faller in George's pants right now. Darren, you want to start us off with a riser? So what is a riser? Let's talk about that.
Okay, fresh from Monday Night Football, I got Kenyon Drake. So what I really like about him is it has turned into a committee with Jay Ajayi now gone.
George is on the floor. I just want to say that right now. Okay.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. So he's shown a lot of ability. He has great breakaway speed. He's got good vision. His size, he's a bit slimmer, but he's a tall guy, so it's not like he's gonna get bounced around between the tackles. And he shows, like I said, great breakaway speed. This guy, he's got to be running like a low 4.4. Oh my goodness.
It's getting worse.
Okay, let's get a paper
George
towel.
is gyrating his hips as if he's like trying to seduce a gorilla. I can't even describe it to you.
It's getting worse. It's definitely getting worse.
Of course it's getting worse. This is the worst bet we've had to
now
pay out so far.
our audience is now deciding to pack up and leave.
Thank you for joining us, studio
Okay.
audience. I mean,
Okay. I'm gonna battle through it now.
I think it was you mentioned
Kenyon
Kenyon
Drake.
Drake. They were just offended by Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, so I expect him moving forward to get a lot more touches. He's used his touches a lot better than his counterpart Williams. And honestly, he just looks the part. He looks like he could be a full-time starter. He looks like he can handle 20 to 25 touches a game and be a breakout star. So my riser is definitely Kenyon Drake.
He had more touches than George did. George has got 1 touch for -8 yards right now.
That's
And a
right.
fumble lost.
His touch was
Lost
a
the
real
ball on
rub,
this
I'd
one.
say, a real rub out. Are you ready for your riser, or do you want me to go?
What I just want to point out with the thing with Kenyon Drake, he has definitely been impressive with his touches. There's no question, and I was impressed with him when I saw him in Alabama. I think he's a talented back. It's just the issue is that he tends to like give up the third down on the passing game work to Damian Williams, and Jay Cutler's played pretty well the last couple weeks, and it's been kind of abnormal. But my concern is that he's playing in an offense that really isn't that dynamic, and without that good of an offensive line, I worry that they won't get many carries on first and second down. So that's kind of my concern with him.
I would like to counterpart that with, yes, Damon Williams has been the pass catching back, but Kenyon Drake has shown the ability. He has hands, and he's thoroughly outplayed Williams. So I think moving forward, you got that apparently amazing head coach in Adam Gase.
Apparently amazing.
Yeah, so we've heard a lot about him. He's done some things, absolutely. He has a garbage team, and he's doing his best with it.
I mean, Damian Williams just didn't really pass my eye test. If it
No,
was me,
he
I would put
does.
Kenyon
He
Drake
fails
in.
the eye test every time you watch him, and I think the reins are going to get handed over. And Kenyon Drake just shows more ability, and he has much better feet. He's got better quickness. I just think he's going to take over.
I agree he's the better back. But to agree with George for a little bit, I think that Kenyon Drake, he's on a bad team, as you're saying, and he's going to be kind of in a timeshare. And I see Miami trailing in a lot of games, which usually has the game script for passes. So I definitely think he's worth being on your team. I think he's a great running back. I think he will be the number 1 in Miami, which any number 1 running back should be owned. I do worry about him being in negative game scripts, though, often. George, who do you got for a riser?
My riser, also a running back. I've got Alvin Kamara as my riser.
right.
In that he started the season kind of in a committee with Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson, and it was a pretty tough situation for him. But you can see right off the bat, even when he was only getting a few touches a game, he was always consistently outproducing the amount of touches he's had. And over the past 5 games, he's basically averaged just under 10 carries per game. So it's rising, but in every single one of them, other than one, he's averaged over 6 yards per carry. So you're just seeing how he's doing so much with it, and he's obviously the passing down back as well. And what you're seeing is, if there's been, I've noticed 3 different times where Drew Brees has made positive comments about him, and you're seeing his work in both the passing and running game. Seems like it's going up every week. He's had 4 touchdowns the past 3 games. He's averaging 19.5 points the past 3 games, and it seems like every single game he becomes more and more a part of the offense, particularly as they transition from this let Drew Brees throw it 50 times to let's win running the ball and with these short passes. It just seems like that the offense is being built in a way that he's going to continue to have an every week role.
Yeah, over the last 4 weeks, I don't know exactly where they are, but I know that both Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara are in the top 5 for running backs in the last.
That's incredible.
The fact that New Orleans is supporting 2 different running backs in the top 5 is just insane. I've got his numbers here, and his involvement in the passing game gives him a good floor. So he's had 5 receptions, 6 receptions, 3 receptions, and 5 receptions in the last 4 weeks. He's been completely safe for these last 4 weeks, and you got to let him up every week. I think for sure he's not just a riser; he just is a star in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's a star too. I watched their game last week, and I've been actually keeping tabs on Kamara because I have a weird fascination with rookies and new guys that come into the league. So I did watch a lot of his runs in the Buffalo and Tampa Bay game, and they've really changed the way they run their offense. A lot of their runs They're doing a lot of misdirection. They're pulling a lot of guards. They're doing a lot of kick-out blocks. They're pulling tackles on tosses. They're getting their players, especially Alvin Kamara, into space because this guy is a satellite. He is so fast, and he's not only fast, but he is strong in the open field. But you want to play to his strengths, right? You want to get him in space. You want him to have the ball, outside of the tackle box, and they do a great job of pulling guards, kicking tackles, and getting him outside. And he's going to be very effective the rest of the year.
I actually heard this question on a different podcast the other week. Who would you guys want to have the rest of the season? Which this question to me seems insane that we're even asking this. Would you rather have Alvin Kamara or Kareem Hunt rest of season? Because I mean, Kareem's been kind of
that's an easy one for me. I go with Alvin Kamara. It is very obvious Kareem Hunt has hit that rookie wall that a lot of rookie running backs do tend to hit, especially when they haven't been like you take Hunt for example. He's a guy that wasn't a first round pick. Everyone was very hyped about him in post draft and in preseason, but he hasn't been training to be a RB1 for a full year. He just hasn't had that amount of volume. And if you look at the Kansas City offense, much of the year was running through run game first and then hitting those play action and hitting a lot of those deep balls with, Tyreek Hill and Kelsey.
Yeah, very creative offense.
Very creative. And Alex Smith is playing outstanding MVP level. But I do see their offense regressing with Kareem Hunt not being as effective.
He's hitting about as many deep balls as George has going on right now. I can still see the pain when
it's still here. It's still here. Okay, I think a lot of those points are valid. And I'm not going to strongly disagree, but what I would like to do is point out the fact that he is coming off a bye, which allows his body to rest up. And then if you look at his schedule, you have the 9th, 2nd, the 19th, then 5th, 7th, and 8th easiest run defenses against. So 5 of his last 6 are top 10 run defenses to go against. And I mean, the team as a whole, the Chiefs are kind of hitting a wall right now, but I just seeing how creative they were to start the season, I got to imagine that they're going to somewhat turn things around offensively and kind of bring it back to close to that level. And this is a guy who's clearly was the centerpiece of that when it happened. So I think his upside is definitely still way higher than Kamara, who still has to compete for snaps with Mark Ingram and isn't really going to get those between the tackle looks as often. But more risk, you're definitely right.
So you're taking Hunt?
I'm going to take Hunt because I like the upside more. Yeah, but it's close.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that we're having this debate, but it's the fact that it's so close is what's crazy about it. My personal opinion is that New Orleans going forward, it's hard to support 2 running backs as much as offense as they have. I do think Kamara is going to be relevant every week. I don't think he's going to be getting that average of like 15 points that he's been getting lately.
Yeah.
So I think it's super close. I'd have to go with Hunt only because I think they were limiting his touches before the bye. I think now that he's had a rest on the bye, he's going to get back to his normal amounts of touches and. It's tough. They're both stud rookies. I'm going to have to personally go with Hunt.
Time will tell, won't it?
You guys should bet that one of you has to put Tiger Balm on your balls or something.
For the season end? Bet.
No, we actually have a really good bet coming up, and we'll let you know.
But that wouldn't be a bad rest of season bet.
Stay tuned.
Hunt versus Kamara. We'll talk something out for that. But okay, my riser, which I hadn't brought up yet. I'll be quick because we've been on risers for a while. I got Marquise Goodwin, so go get him. He's only owned 15% of Yahoo leagues. This week he went 2 for 83 and a touchdown with an 18-yard rush. He only had 1 rush for 18 yards. That's a pretty good yards per carry for a wide receiver, right? Or just for anyone. Pierre Garçon's done for the year in that San Francisco offense. Kittle struggling with an injury. That leaves Goodwin as the only real show in town for the 49ers. The 49ers are on bye this week, and we might see Garoppolo in Week 12. Who knows? I mean, Beathard had a completion rate of 54.3%, and Garoppolo's career percentage is 67%. Certainly, his receiving core in New England was far better than what they have in San Francisco, but I can't imagine that the percentage is going to go down from what Beathard has. So I think Marquise Goodwin is an interesting character to look at in that San Francisco offense. He's had a good couple weeks, and I think he's going to go up from there.
All right. Well, I've just got major concerns for a guy who's built on the long ball in an offense that's terrible. I feel like you're risking that there's going to be like, say over the next 5 weeks, say he even does two long touchdowns. My concern is that when he doesn't get those, that you're playing a guy who's going to get 2.1 points kind of thing.
Right, but my point is that with not a lot of people left in that offense, I think that his target share is going to go up, right? Like, I mean, it didn't really happen this week because they were losing. I mean, I guess it didn't really happen this week. I don't really know why, but last week he had 8 targets.
Yeah.
I just think he's the only show in town. I think. I could see him blowing up soon. Not even soon. I could see him becoming more consistent than just a deep threat.
I have to disagree. I just wouldn't touch anyone on this 49ers offense, to be honest, unless his name was Carlos Hyde.
But
Sorry.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
I think we can all agree though. Like, if you saw what happened with the touchdown and how he broke down, that was one of the more incredible moments
Absolutely,
of the football
it
season.
was definitely an incredible moment, and it happened against my Giants, who, frankly, to say, have completely given up on defense. So I wouldn't, hang my hat on him, especially in the playoffs, like fantasy playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But he is going to be the number one target there. I'm just worried about the types of targets he's getting, and how well that offense is just going to be able to operate and move the ball.
Yeah.
So that's about it for me.
I just think Garoppolo's going to have to throw the ball to someone, so I think maybe he's worth a shot.
time will
Fallers.
Yeah.
So Faller is going to be defined as someone who was doing really well for a while, and we think is starting to fall from grace a bit. We think is maybe not as great as they were beginning of the year or even the prior few weeks.
So I got a real hot take on this one. Melvin Gordon.
Woo!
Big faller in my book.
Hop on the
Last
Eckler train?
week I said sell Julio. He got 7 points.
All
This
right,
week
you won that one.
I'm saying sell Melvin Gordon if your trade deadline hasn't passed. I just really don't like the quality of his touches. He's one of those backs that is getting hit in the backfield consistently. He has shown ability, but he's getting beat up behind a horrible offensive line. Last game he had 21 touches for 42 yards, no tutties. So he's getting the touches, like I said, but what are the type of quality touches is he getting? Something is seriously wrong with the San Diego offense. Like, they are struggling to move the ball.
I believe that'll be LA.
Struggling. Sorry, my bad.
okay.
LA. And not only that, but he has a very, very tough schedule for the rest of the way, especially after week 12. He faces Baltimore, 25th against, 25th running back points. They're the 25th worst. The 25th worst. Cleveland, 26. Washington, 21. Kansas City, 24. And then they finish with the Jets, who actually surprisingly have played well against the run. They're the 17th. And I just really don't like the health of the O-line, and they're not opening holes for him. So I say Melvin Gordon is my faller.
No, I'm kind of with you on that. I mean, obviously you shouldn't be dropping Melvin Gordon in any sense. But I've always thought Melvin Gordon's kind of a touchdown dependent guy. Like last year he didn't have the greatest yards per carry. This year his yards per carry have been inconsistent.
Very inconsistent.
Yeah. Some games he blows up, some games he doesn't.
And if you look at his good games, he had a really good game against the Patriots 2 weeks ago. But it's the Patriots. Their defense has been one of their historically worst defenses this year. Mm-hmm. And if you let me just pull them up right here.
Against the Patriots in week 8, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying in general. Against Jacksonville, who have had recently in recent weeks have stepped up their run game with Marcel Darius.
Yeah, but they're much better pass defense.
But they're a much better pass defense, exactly. And he was averaging around 2 yards per touch.
Yeah, 16 for 27. Yeah, so less than 2 yards per touch.
21.
No, with the catches and yards.
Oh no, I'm talking just per rush. I'm saying yards per carry. Obviously he had 5
he was under 2 yards per carry.
I'll just give a bit of pushback in saying that he is a guy who it seems like, other than the game against the Patriots where he was kind of injured and had broke off an 80-yard run and only got 13 attempts, I believe. Other than that, he gets 20 touches at least a game. And even if his average isn't that great, he's getting touchdowns on a semi-regular basis. So, I mean, his floor is still pretty high.
Absolutely. I'm saying as a faller, don't expect him to get 25 points, 20 points a week for you. He is not his draft round price right now. His value is not there.
I have his numbers here. He's actually only hit 20 touches twice this year. Week 5 and week 6 are the only weeks he did. But he does average around 16. So I'm not. But I wouldn't say he's good for at least 20. He's only really hit 20 twice.
Yeah, especially if you drafted this guy in the first round, right? And he's getting maybe 10 points for the rest of the way a week. Not what you expect.
But at least he's in the passing game, so that gives him a decent floor, but he's kind of all over the place. So I kind of agree with you that you can't trust him to be an RB1 every week, but definitely at least an RB2, I'd say you can slot him in for. How about you, George? What'd you got for a faller?
I'm looking at T.Y. Hilton.
Oh, absolutely.
In the past 7 weeks, he's averaging just under 67 yards, which sounds pretty good, but 2 of those weeks he had 175 and 177 yards. And if you take them out and take the other 5, he's averaging less than 23 yards and no touchdowns in those 5 games. And this is a guy who is projected 8th in points per game for the rest of the season. So he's projected as a mid-level RB or wide receiver 1. And when it seems like 2 out of every 3 weeks he's going to go for less than 30 yards and provide absolutely nothing, I think that's completely should not be the case. you shouldn't be banking on a guy who is showing that every second week he's going to do absolutely nothing. And not only that, like I want to account to the fact that like Jacoby Brissett's just taking hit after hit after hit, and to think that he's even going to survive the rest of the season is pretty unlikely. And I mean, for a guy who's already struggling to have a connection on a consistent basis, I imagine that if Brissett goes out, his floor becomes even lower.
Oh, I can't agree more. I think I mentioned Hilton on last week's cast. His only good weeks have come against terrible defenses. So like he blew up against Houston in week 9, he blew up in San Francisco in week 5, and he blew up against Cleveland in week 3. Every other week he has not eclipsed 5 points. He's not gone over 5 points besides those
incredible.
3
That is the model of inconsistency.
And I said it last week's cast. For the rest of the season, he averages the 6th hardest pass defense in the league. Averages. That's on average.
Yeah.
Like he plays. He's got. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but like his schedule is just god awful.
But it's like if you look at that, like, and you say like, okay, maybe he can blow up once every few games. You're looking at him and you're saying, okay, as a wide receiver 3, I'm willing to accept this low floor, high ceiling kind of guy. But this is a guy you're starting as a wide receiver 1.
I hope nobody is.
Yeah,
they're not winning if they are.
He's projected as a wide receiver 1. It's incredible.
Coming up, he's got his bye obviously this week. Then he's got Tennessee, which is only good matchup left. Then he's got Jacksonville, the best run defense pass defense in the game. Buffalo, Denver, and Baltimore, and that's the rest of his season.
Not easy.
That's some garbage.
Who do you have, Daniel?
For my faller, I have Jerick McKinnon. So, I mean, this is a bit more of a hot take. I'm not saying he's going to completely fall off the face of the earth, but I am saying that the timeshare is becoming more and more Latavius Murray heavy. So, McKinnon and Murray literally went 50-50 with snaps this week, with McKinnon getting 31 out of 61, and Latavius Murray getting 30 out of 61. So, McKinnon got 47 combined yards on 10 rushes and 2 targets, while Latavius Murray played one less snap. He got one more carry, so he went 17 for 68 and 1. So the biggest critique of Latavius Murray all season has been his garbage yards per carry. But in this game, Murray got a yards per carry of 4.0. He's starting to get more comfortable in that offense. The Vikings showed that they'd rather run the ball with Murray, with McKinnon in there for only real like third down and passing duties. While they're snapping even, Murray appears to be the guy that they trust on the goal line and on the first down. McKinnon is now trending to me to be more of a bench player, with Latavius Murray becoming the back to own in Minnesota. I don't want to say it's going to be like that for forever. That's just the trend that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing McKinnon is potentially being a faller in that offense.
I see Murray has flex potential. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, and I'm McKinnon. He's right there on the cusp of flex and bench. If I had them both, I don't know. I think I'd be starting Latavius Murray is what I'm saying, and not Jerick McKinnon.
I guess I'm looking at it and sort of saying, I like, obviously that's not how it works on a podcast, but I want to kind of see what he does next week, in the sense that the previous 4 weeks before, he'd had 16, 15, or 14 rush attempts, and then he went down to 10 in this one. So I want to, and you made the point, he was down to 50% of snaps played. So I'd be very interested to see next week, is it going to kind of be a bounce back week for him, where he earns his rollback, or is he going to do what you said? And you might be right, but I'd like to hold off on
They've
it.
got a tough matchup against the Rams this week. That is a very, very tough run defense.
I think they're second worst, actually, aren't they? Like
Rams they're ranked fourth worst here, but they've so you're right about that. But they also have definitely
been good against the pass.
They've definitely also just looked a lot better than the past few weeks.
My bad. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a hot take in that sense. He definitely has a higher ceiling than Latavius Murray, in my opinion. But I'm just, from looking at the trend, I just think Latavius Murray is going to take over pretty soon. Maybe I'll be wrong about that.
We'll see.
We've all done a faller. You did your faller?
I did.
Yeah, you did. Right. Anybody got a faker?
Yeah, I'll go with Sammy Watkins, who is on my fantasy team, and every week it seems like I'm just. Last 2 weeks I've been like, thank God he caught that one touchdown, because he has done nothing otherwise. In back-to-back weeks...
Are you allowed to be wearing a Rams jersey and saying that?
I can say whatever I want, because I got Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and Todd Gurley and Sean McVay, and everything's good. And but like, he's gotten double-digit fantasy points in standard the past 2 weeks, but he's only had 3 receptions in those games. It just happened that 2 of them were long touchdowns, and it's completely unsustainable to believe that he's going to get 2 or 3 targets a game and still rack up double-digit fantasy points. I mean, I view him as someone that, like, really you shouldn't be starting. I'm starting him because I don't have much else, but he's not reliable at all, even though it looks like that because he's had 2 consecutive weeks. But he hasn't had more than 5 targets since all of week 3. And not only that, you kind of knew that Cooper Kupp was going to take the role of that slot receiver, but you kind of expected that he would be the number 1 wideout. But Robert Woods has just escalated week by week in terms of being that guy. And he's definitely becoming the guy who has a rapport with Goff. And obviously with a young quarterback, if you can get the rapport earlier on, you're much more likely to kind of phase someone like Sammy Watkins out of the offense.
Absolutely. I think Sammy Watkins only has 5 targets in the last 2 weeks,
even
though he's had huge numbers.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
They've been spreading the ball absolutely there.
Who do you got, Darren?
For my follower, I have Brandon LaFell coming off, his best game of the season, highest targets of the season. He had 10 targets, 6 catches for 95, and a touchdown. I'm just gonna say he's a faker. This guy, this is his only second game this season going over 10 points. With my league, we do per catch 0.3. So he basically, he's got a really tough schedule the rest of the way: Denver, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit. And I just really don't like the Cincinnati offense. They sputter at times. They're very inconsistent. AJ Green is the only dependable player. Joe Mixon has been putting up some fantasy points, but he hasn't breaking out yet. And I just think Brandon LaFell, with Andy Dalton as his quarterback, will not be effective the rest of the year. I wouldn't bank on starting him at all.
Yeah, I think you're making the right point by saying that the argument against him is his offense, and that it's been super inconsistent, and he's clearly the number 2 guy. You've got AJ Green, who's one of the most dominant wideouts in the league. So banking on a number 2 receiver in a sputtering offense is pretty questionable. So I'm with you.
I just hope the Red Ranger turns it around.
The Red Ranger.
Red Rifle, whatever. I call him Red
Rifle
Ranger.
BB
I know.
gun.
I like Red Ranger because he transforms a lot between a great player and an awful player.
Yeah, that's good.
It's morphin' time! Okay, I got actually, Darren and I were talking about this guy before the cast started, so I know he disagrees with me. Or maybe I won him over, I doubt it. My faker is Rex Burkhead from your New England Patriots. Now, don't get me wrong, I think he's a talented guy. I think he's if he was the lead back in New England, purely the lead back, I would think he's great. But the New England Patriots are like a box of chocolates. You just don't know what you're going to get. Yes, Burkhead got 51% of the snaps this week. And yes, Dion Lewis only got 30% of snaps. And yes, Gillislee was a healthy scratch. But my point is, that was this week. Burkhead is worth a pickup if you need an RB and if he's free. But in my opinion, you should not blow your waiver priority or your fab budget on this guy. I think there's a good chance he leads the backfield again in some of the games. I don't know about all the games. I think there's a good chance he'll be successful again. But Gillislee won't be scratched every game. James White is the team's leader in snaps. He's not just going to disappear from his. He only had 16% of the snaps. That's not going to continue necessarily. And I don't know. Nobody knows is my point. Bill Belichick, he holds his cards close to his chest. He when he's not bullying his staff into stealing other teams' practice tapes or deflating footballs, Belichick's number 1 hobby is not revealing what he's thinking. So I have no idea what's going to happen with Rex Burkhead going forward because nobody knows what's going to happen with Rex Burkhead going forward.
Darian?
I will disagree. But should we wait to the waiver wire ads, or should we just go right on
whatever,
them?
Whatever you
go.
go
Right to them? Okay, so one of my waiver wire ads
go.
is Rex Burkhead. He's only 14% owned, and like Dan said, it is a committee, but I just see him dominating that committee for the rest of the way, even though Dion Lewis and, like you said, James White are there. He's clearly carved out a role in this offense, and he does a great job on first and second down, keeping the offense multifaceted. When Mike Gillislee was in there, it was very obvious they're going to hand him the ball in between the tackles. Rex Burkhead, you can bump him out in the slot. You can have him leak out of the backfield. He can even run between the tackles. So, I think he's starting to get that rapport with Tom Brady. You saw it on the touchdown throw. And I think, he's getting more trust within the offense. And it's pretty evident, from the past 2 weeks, they are doing more of a effort. They're having more of an effort to get him some touches. And they've all been quality touches.
Mm-hmm.
He's done great things and with, getting the ball. And he's got an extremely easy schedule the rest of the way in terms of running backs production. If they face Oakland this week, who gives up the 5th most points, Miami 7th, Buffalo 2nd, Miami 7th again. Then they only have their one tough game, which is Pittsburgh, and then they finish Week 16 with Buffalo again, which gives up the 2nd most points.
Someone on New England's going to get a lot of points each of those games.
So
Someone
is, and I'm willing to bank that Rex Burkhead will be one of the main guys. Dion Lewis will still get production because he has been playing well, and I just think there is enough offense to go around for all of them, pretty much. But especially Rex, I think he will be scoring high points.
I'm gonna jump in and say I'm more with Daniel on this, in that you're betting on Bill Belichick's decision making about who he's going to start. It scares me.
As someone who just bet against Tom Brady and is feeling it.
Yeah, feeling that one. But there's a realistic chance that by the end of the season you're starting him as a high-end RB2, but there's also a realistic chance that he is phased out of the offense completely. You just really don't know with this. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, obviously, he's kind of in between of he can do sort of everything, but you've already got 2 different running backs on the roster of James White, Dion Lewis, and let's be honest, LeGarrette Blount's probably just going to say he's going out for shoulder surgery in a couple weeks, and then Philadelphia will cut him, and somehow he'll just sign with the Pats, aka just like Martellus Bennett.
George, we've been agreeing a lot on this cast. Does that make me nuts? Like, I don't know. It feels like I'm burning. I don't get it. But yeah, I think we've agreed on 3 different points. Usually, I don't know.
I don't want to agree with you at all today, Daniel. Done.
I need some Tiger Balm to cool myself down. I've already given my point on Rex Burkhead. I don't know. We'll see over the course of the year.
We'll
I kind of hope I'm wrong. I like the guy, but my waiver wire pickup is Samaje Perine. So Perine's owned in only 7% of leagues. Fat Rob could miss. Actually, sorry, it's actually changed since I wrote this. Fat Rob is out. He's on IR for the rest of the year. So it's looking like Samaje Perine's going to be taking over that job. So Fat Rob went down with an injured knee and ankle, which I guess is inevitable when you weigh 6 feet, weigh 200. Sorry, when you're 6 foot tall, weigh 240 pounds, and run for a living. So Perine's a talented back who had 6 yards per carry in Kelly's relief on Sunday, and I think it's going to be good moving forward. I see him as the primary back in Washington, and I think definitely pick him up if you can.
Okay, I think it's definitely worth a speculative ad in the sense that he will definitely have a role and could be right off the bat kind of a low-end flex play, but has the potential to grow into more, because if he does do well with his touches, I mean, he should be able to dominate at least the first 2 downs.
As long as he doesn't fumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Just keep the ball in your hand.
Let's look back, and he had 2 big chances to become the feature back early in the season.
That's a good point.
He didn't do terribly, did he?
I'm looking right here. He played the Rams. He had 21 carries for 67 yards.
That's not bad.
That's okay.
Yeah, 3.2 yards per carry.
That's okay. And then they played Oakland, who gives up the 5th most points to backs, and he had 19 rushes for 49 yards and a fumble lost.
Right.
So he's had his opportunity so far. I'm not gonna say there's no chance of it happening, but I'm gonna say the chances of him succeeding are not the greatest.
I said he had 6 yards per carry. Shoot, I was looking at his
6 yards
combined
per attempt. Yeah, he had less than 4 yards a carry.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, but it's 4 yards per carry.
And that offensive line is...
And 4.5 the week before.
That offensive line has been beat up this year. They have not been healthy.
I'm calling Daniel on his shit right now. He just said 4.5 yards last week and
4.5 yards per carry the week before.
He had 2 carries.
He had 2
carries.
yards
On the air.
You trying to get me to agree with you? I mean, you start pulling out that stuff? Get out of here.
Week 4, 6 carries. He also had 4.5 yards per carry.
Let me just say, I am not a Perine lover. Okay, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, okay, fair. So you would pick up Jamal Williams over him, you think?
I would definitely pick up Jamal Williams over him.
We should ask George, who is your pickup?
Well, I'm down to do this Jamal Williams conversation first, because I am definitely saying you should not touch Jamal Williams.
Oh, saying no touch on the Jamal Williams. I like
Even
it.
with Montgomery with the broken ribs and what is it? Who went? Aaron Jones?
Aaron Jones is out with the knee injury this weekend. I would pick him up and even possibly play him this weekend. He is going to be the lead back this week, 100%. Last week he came in and once the injuries to both backs happened, he rushed 20 rushes for 67 yards. Not the greatest, but that is a tough Packers front seven.
20 carries, and dream of that. Right?
Exactly, and Hundley started to make some plays. The offense opened up a little bit. He's definitely going to be a possible flex start next week against a Baltimore run defense that hasn't been playing as well as they had at the beginning of the season.
Okay, just to be clear, I didn't realize that the diagnosis on Jones was out 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah,
that's longer than I thought it was doubtful for this week, and maybe we'll see. I'm not nearly as against it as I was before.
And Jamal Williams has shown ability. You know, he's a bigger back. He doesn't have much wiggle to him, but he knows how to put his foot in the ground and get yards that he can get.
Okay, but what I will say to that is I actually picked up Jamal Williams right off the bat to start off the season, just because he was supposed to be the number 2 guy between Montgomery, who you never know, just because he was a receiver before and he had this injury and they say he's got the sickle
Aaron
cells.
Jones came out of left field.
And then but it seemed like I watch a lot of Aaron Rodgers press conferences because that's what I do with my life. Yeah. And when asked about Jamal Williams, there were 2 separate times where he gave the kind of we're happy with what he sees. He's just he's out there improving, but just kind of the standard talk of someone who you're not all that impressed with. And then he obviously lost his role to Aaron Jones as that other guy. So I mean, he definitely should get the opportunity. I'm just a little doubtful as to what he's going to do with it, particularly when you don't have much of a passing game to benefit him.
Fair enough. But if we're going to compare him to Perine, I'd take Jamal Williams.
I would take
with the out for 3 to 6 weeks, which I didn't realize that's a...
So do we have a Kamara versus Hunt, and we now have a Perine versus Williams going on here?
It's possible.
I like where this is going.
Okay.
I like where this is going.
Should we talk about our new bet? Because I'm itching to talk about it.
Oh, you're itching. Is that right?
Not as bad as you, buddy.
George. Well, let's get to the bet in just a second. I think George still has a waiver wire pickup. Or?
Okay, well, I put 2 guys on here because the one that I'm really looking at, like in my league, he's available, but it's 55% of leagues, so he might not be available in your league. But Jamison Crowder, I'm finding on the waiver wire. It seems like someone's dropping him and picking him up seemingly every week. Yeah. But he's had 24 targets and 199 yards over the past 2 games, and it kind of feels to me like either him or Doxson is going to blow up 10 this season and kind of be like in a passing offense that's pretty good. He's the possession receiver, and I think that you have a pretty safe. You can at this point with the targets he's getting, you can pretty much safely start him as a wide receiver 3 flex, knowing you're going to get some points out of him, and then it's just a matter of how much better he can become. But if you can get him, I feel like you're picking someone up who you have the ability to start every week and just hoping for something more.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about Washington's receivers as I feel about New England's running backs, though, a little bit. Like, it just feels like it's kind of like a rotating wheel with a bunch of mouths to feed. And Doxson kind of was the number 1 guy. He was being tracked by Xavier Rhodes over Minnesota the entire game. So it's like Minnesota felt like Doxson was number 1. So I think Crowder was more of a benefactor of the fact that they were tracking Doxson, but if that continues, then Crowder will definitely be a benefactor of that.
And that's kind of how I'm looking at it with that role of like Doxson seems like the guy who could potentially like really explode as that number 1 wideout, whereas Crowder he's going to have a role every single week in the middle and making plays and getting 10 targets kind of thing. So I don't know. I look at him as.
Did he play in Week 9 against Seattle, or did he just put up some goose eggs? I don't know. I don't remember if he sat out. He just had 0 targets for 0 receptions. Maybe he didn't play.
He sat out.
He sat out. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. It just then 2 straight weeks.
He had a bad hammy. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he 9 receptions in Week 8 for 123 yards. That's great. So I mean, yeah, I think he could be owned. I agree with that entirely. I'm just afraid of the Washington offense.
He had a lot of preseason hype around him, and I gotta admit, I was one of those guys. You know, I thought, you know, with Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon leaving, a lot of those targets were going to translate to production for him. And it didn't happen. It really didn't happen. It really felt like they weren't featuring him in the offense. They weren't running plays designed for him. Now you're starting to see him come around a bit. You know, Jordan Reed's been out for a couple weeks. And they're looking for a playmaker. And Crowder has definitely stepped up the past 2 weeks. I would definitely keep my eye on him. That's for sure.
For defensive streams of the week, let's not go too far into it because this is a weird week where there's only 4 teams on bye, and they're not very good teams. The teams on bye this week are Colts, 49ers, Jets, and Panthers. So usually I just play whatever defense is playing the Colts or the 49ers. You can't do that this week because they're both on bye. But the good news of this also is almost no one owns the Colts, the 49ers, or the Jets in their leagues. So that means you probably have a defense ready to play. If you happen to own the Panthers or your team's going up against a really bad offense, here's some people who might be good for you. Anybody got a defense they want to talk about?
Mine this week will be the Arizona Cardinals defense.
I'm right with you.
They're 48% owned. So in most leagues you can pick them up, and they're starting to heat up. They've had 10 plus sacks and 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery in the past 2 games. Yes, they haven't been facing good O-lines, but it is saying something that they're getting there.
But they are also 47% owned. But I mean, they do play a savagely bad offense.
Yeah, and so they're playing. They're playing Houston this week, and I don't even think it's going to be savage. TJ Yates has been getting the first round reps all week at practice, which is definitely not an upgrade. So I would stream them. I would play them with confidence this week.
Yeah, I'm definitely just looking at it as when you've got.
It's a matchup base.
Well, yeah, when you look at, you say the Niners and the Colts are teams that aren't playing this week. I'm looking at it and saying you've got an offense that might be starting TJ Yates that over the past 5 weeks has given up 12.6 points a week to opposing defenses. I just think this is an opportunity where you got to look at it and say they might really just destroy TJ Yates and have a real big week for a relatively mediocre defense.
Did you also have the Cardinals?
Yeah.
I got the Bengals, so this one was obvious to me. They're only owned in 25% of Yahoo leagues, so let's say the Cardinals are gone in your league because it's 47%. These ones are only owned 25, and their numbers haven't been awful this year, and they're playing Brock and the Broncos this week, who have been inept, even against the worst defense in the league this week. They still didn't get it done. That was New England. Keep your eye on whether or not Brock starts over Simeon this week, but if it is Simeon, they're still a good stream in my opinion. So,
I'm with you.
I agree.
How much that?
Sweet. I mean, I had Green Bay Packers written down who are playing Baltimore, who's bad, but those other 2 are far better than that. Moving on, you guys got any sneaky starts you want to talk about?
Sure. I got one. I got Jay Cutler. Guy that I kind of shit on 2 weeks ago. Or actually, no, it was last week.
Everyone else that's ever
exactly, and
watched
I took the Raiders defense to roll against him. He did quite the opposite. He had his best game as a Dolphin. He threw for 300 plus and 3 touchdowns. Last week he came back down to earth a bit. playing Carolina, one of the best defenses in the league, but he still put up 14 points. He would have had 16 points if he didn't make that horrible decision and throw Luke Kuechly the ball. But the main thing is he's facing a down-and-out Bucks team. This Bucks team's horrible. They're obviously playing for next year. They don't have Jameis. They have no run game. Mike Evans has been absent. So I think it's going to be a bit of a blowout win for the Dolphins. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I actually think it. And, all of his weapons are getting healthy. Devontae Parker's healthy. Kenny Stills is playing well. I've talked about Kenyon Drake already. I think he's going to be an emerging star for the rest of the year. And, sneaky, he'll be a sneaky start for me this week. If you're really looking for someone.
I'm just curious though, where is the line?
He's 18% owned as well.
Who would you start him over? Let's talk about that. I just want to see some of the players you might start him over. Let me just pull up some of the quarterbacks and their matchups, and I want to know where do you draw the line on where do you start this guy, right? Because I'm more than down to play him against Tampa Bay. I just want to know who do you start?
It depends. It depends who you have. A lot of people that I've been especially in my league, there's a couple teams that stream quarterbacks every week, and they don't have one of those top guys.
Yeah, and just to add to that point, I would say this seems like an even more common year because you've got guys like Roethlisberger and Carr that have both been dropped in my leagues.
I would start him over Kirk Cousins against New Orleans.
Okay.
I would start him over Phillip Rivers against Buffalo.
Who's in concussion protocol? Might not play. Probably will. Yeah.
Okay. I would start him. I would even start him over Dak playing Philly.
Whoa,
that's a hot take right there.
Philly's got a great
That's a hot
defense.
take.
Yeah.
Philly's got a great defense, especially the past couple weeks.
I'm sure you'd start him over Mariota as well.
I would start him over Mariota, exactly. So there's some guys out there that I would be confident starting him over.
I agree with maybe the Cousins one. I don't think I agree with the Dak one. I probably agree with the Rivers, but I see what you're saying, and that's a pretty good.
I'm just
thermometer.
not hyped on this Cowboys offense anymore. With Elliott gone, they do not look like a healthy attack.
Well, my question also becomes what's the status of Tyron Smith, because that was the biggest. You look at last week.
Glaring.
Obviously, the Zeke thing was big, but you have 5 sacks from a guy.
Tyron Smith was glaring. 6 sacks for Adrian Claiborne.
Yes, 6. Sorry.
Moving on though, my sneaky start is related to yours. It's Devontae Parker. So it's his wide receiver. Devontae Parker's been getting the same kind of target share as Jarvis Landry. Last week he had 9. The week before that he had 8. And Jarvis Landry's been getting right along the same numbers. Devontae Parker, it feels like they've been going to him later in games when they've been trailing. So he seems like he's the guy that he's been trusting in the third and fourth quarters, and Dolphins will be trailing a lot. So this week he got 66 yards. The week before that he got 76 yards. He's got a good floor because the only week that he's gotten less than 66 yards was in week 5 when he got injured. So the guy's got a good baseline of a floor that you can trust, and he's playing Tampa Bay, so there's always potential for blow up. I think Devontae Parker's a sneaky start, but I got to ask for a friend. Let's say that my friend is in a situation where they're trying to decide between Juju Smith-Schuster, Amari Cooper, and Devontae Parker. This person can start 2 and sit 1. What would you guys do?
I think that's pretty
I think
obvious.
Juju, you're definitely starting.
I
think
think Juju's against Tennessee.
Not even close.
Cooper's against New England. I think that's why it's such and at home. Oh, yeah, in Mexico City they're playing.
I
right?
really feel like Cooper is untrustworthy.
This person is playing the top team in the league and needs the points, so that's also something important to consider.
I would go with the safe floor of Parker,
Okay.
the high ceiling of Juju,
Yeah.
and the
They also have-
inconsistency of
They also
Cooper
have AJ
plants
Green, so you're just
himself
deciding on their
the
flex right
bench.
here, really. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm with Darian though. I think those are your starts. I think you sit
Right.
Cooper, and I didn't realize until I looked at that he literally, in every game other than the one that he was injured, he's had at least 8
66
targets.
yards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
66 yards.
Yeah.
And also, and you
And
mentioned
at
that,
least
and
8
also
targets, yeah.
eight
He
targets.
clearly has a rapport with Cutler. Cutler loves those big-bodied receivers because he does have a big arm, so he likes to go put it somewhere where that big receiver can go get it.
Yeah, so Devontae Parker, great start for me this week. Do you have a sneaky start? If you don't, that's cool. We'll just move on.
I do not.
That's cool. Yeah, no worries.
Let's talk about our next bet.
Our next bet. All right, so this last one was pretty savage. We just got some Tiger Balm up in George.
Yeah, we did.
I don't think
Inside of
our
him.
next one is going to be more fun, I think, but it won't be as painful.
Couldn't be less fun.
It's going to be a little bit more humiliating, I think.
All right, so this week what we're going to do is we're going to do the top wide receiver.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to bet on who is going to be the best wide receiver, and the loser, we got a slap bet going down. So if anybody is a fan of How I Met Your Mother, they did a slap bet. So basically next week we're going to be paying out where the loser gets slapped at once during the next cast, and then they also are going to get slapped one time during the rest of the season at surprise, at random. We have no idea when it's going to come, but that person can get slapped at
there's
any
one rule.
point.
You can't just slap the guy
Mid-sentence?
You can't just slap him without him knowing he's going to get slapped.
What?
You have to tell him you're getting your slap now. Get ready.
No.
Yeah.
I disagree. What do you think, George?
I like somewhere in the middle, in that like you can't just slap out of nowhere, but you literally just have to
You have to be
verbalize.
face to face
you
with them.
just have to verbalize it. I'm gonna slap you,
Yeah.
and then boom, you can
Yeah.
Since George is going to lose, it has to be like, yo, George, look out. Right?
Yeah. And being the loser, the losee, you have to just take it like a man.
All right, so last week we had determined our quarterbacks before we got into the cast. We thought that was artificial. We're going to be authentic for you people. We're going to draft right here, right now. We're going to make our decisions right as you're listening. So you guys want to do some odds, evens, odds?
Let's do it.
All right.
Sure.
Okay. We'll describe this for the listeners just
All right,
because
we're
you
gonna
guys
go
can
on
see it
three?
first. On 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, I got a 1. We all have
All right,
ones. Let's try it
again.
again. 1, 2, 3. All right, I got a 2. That means I get first pick,
yeah.
right? Now you guys rock, paper, scissors for your second pick. Oh, boy, this got easy. All right, so George had the paper against Darian's rock. That means paper beats rock, and
All right.
George gets pick number 2. Just
you
in case
got?
anybody doesn't know how rock, paper,
do you
scissors
got?
works. I'm going to take the obvious one. I'm really glad I got him because everybody else is just a gong show this week. I'm taking Mr. Antonio Brown against the Tennessee Titans, so I guess I'm not losing another bet this week, eh, boys? Shut up. Not to get cocky, but I hope I
Not to
I
get
kind of want to
cocky,
feel some
but
pain.
I'm not gonna lose any bets.
Mr. Antonio Brown, don't let me down, bro.
All right, well, I'm gonna, which might be a little ridiculous considering that I just lost a bet that I was Tiger Bombing my balls, but I'm gonna go with a little bit off the board, not so much off the board, but bigger risk, and I'm going with Tyreek Hill, who's gonna blow up this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got some stats on Tyreek, but I want to hear Darian's first. No, it's
I
a good
don't
pick.
like your
It's a
smile.
great pick. No, it's
I'm looking at
it is.
this and I'm not liking a lot of these matchups. I really am not. But I gotta go with Brandon Cooks
Oh, right.
in Mexico City.
Wow.
Oh,
Mr. Inconsistent.
That's right.
Although talking about inconsistencies, just a quick Dan stat read of the week. Not too long here. Tyreek Hill, his numbers are hilarious.
it's incredible.
I'm rounding.
I know what you're about
I'm
to
rounding
say
here.
'cause
I've
I'm
got them
looking
written
at
down.
it.
Okay, week 1, 20 points, then 5, then 15, then 4, then 13, then 3, then 19, then 3, then 13. Now he's had his bye week. My question, does that bye week count as his down week, or is this his down week? Because
It better count as his
the
down
odd
week.
weeks,
Okay, I
he
change
just
my- I
blows up.
change it.
His
I
even
don't
numbers,
want
he
Cooks.
goes
I
down.
don't want Cooks. Hold on, Cooks. Hold on.
No, he cannot change. He
I just-
absolutely cannot change
What
this.
do
You have Brandon Cooks.
I wanna
you
know
said
he likes
Brandon
it.
Cooks.
Okay, I'll take him.
Who do you want
What
to
do you
change
want
it
to try
to?
about
How
it?
many we can set? Who
Doug
is it?
Baldwin. I was debating between him and Doug Baldwin, but it's okay. I'll
you're
take
Brandon
Cooks.
Cooks.
I would have
take
taken
Cooks.
Doug Baldwin.
No, you said Brandon Cooks.
I'll tell you, I got Cooks.
Okay.
All right.
I took him with confidence.
All I'm saying is Tyreek Hill, was that bye week he's down week? Is this his down week? He's playing the Giants. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just saying Tyreek Hill's
Well, I've
funny.
lost 2 of the 3 bets, so realistically, he's probably gonna have a down week.
All right. Well, that about does it for our podcast. We are the Football Fetishists. Thank you all for listening to us, and hope you have a great week 11 and onwards. Thank you.
See ya.